Hey, we're going to be talking about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. In this film, we follow Sean and his best friend Katie. They are just living their best lives and they're having the greatest of times. However, unfortunately, they are not meeting their expectations by family or friends. However, Sean's past seems to resurface and things start taking a nasty turn. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I really enjoyed this film, especially in the beginning portions of the movie. I really liked that, how we got the origin of Shang-Chi's parents. The beginning of that opening scene is very mythical and everything. The colors that they use is very just really shot very well. It has a very Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon kind of vibe to it, especially with the way the martial arts is used. Very choreographed, almost very dance-like, and it's actually done very, very well. And it sticks out a lot differently from the rest of the movie as the movie goes on. One of the best things about this movie is the chemistry between the character of Sean and his best friend Katie. They actually have such good chemistry together. They actually seem like best friends in real life on and off the screen. And they're actually a big selling point of the movie because they play off each other so well. And during the big fight scene on the bus, oh my God, that is probably one of the best fight scenes I've seen in a long time in a movie, especially in a Marvel movie, I will say. And that fight scene on the bus is awesome. And I'm really glad that they did not show the whole fight scene in the actual trailer because there's actually a lot more to that fight scene altogether. And I was like, this is awesome. This is a really good fight scene. I was kind of hoping, since it is taking place in San Francisco, I was kind of hoping maybe we'd see like an Ant-Man cameo, but oh well, whatever. But that fight scene altogether is very awesome. It's actually very different too because the fight scene, like I mentioned before, the fighting in the beginning of the movie is, like I was saying, very Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. It has like this whole like mystical kind of vibe. However, the fight scene that's taking place on the bus is very reminiscent to like Jackie Chan, and it's done very, very well because, you know, the character of Sean, he is literally using everything around him as a helping tool to fight. He's using a jacket, he's like using the poles, and it's very well done. And the fact that, he'll smile at the camera or he'll smile at a person across the room or across the bus, it just reminded me of that very like wholesome kind of Jackie Chan kind of fight scene. So it was very well done. I really enjoyed that part. Every good movie has to have a good villain. And we got a really awesome villain in this movie. I was really glad that they did this. Tony Leung in this movie is awesome. He's probably one of the better villains I've seen in the MCU so far, especially since he's not a CGI character. He's actually a real person, and he does an amazing job in this movie. And I was like, wow. Okay. And what does every great villain have? A great henchman. The Death Dealer in this movie is awesome. He looks amazing. Not only does he look kind of scary, but the fighting skills that he uses in this movie and the fact that we don't know much about him and that he pops out of nowhere is awesome. And the fact that, you want to see more and more and more of him is great. He does an amazing job. I enjoyed Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings very much. However, it did have a few flaws in it that kind of bothered me. And it's not necessarily the movie's fault. It's more of an MCU thing. Like I said, the first half of the movie is just so strong. Everything, the character's very well done. By the third half, it starts following that typical Marvel formula. And if you know what that is, you kind of know what I'm talking about. The whole big spectacle thing at the end of the movie. I felt like this movie did not need that. And like I said, too, to go back to a great villain, we had Tony Leung in this. He was, the main villain through the entire movie, and he did such an amazing job. To have him overshadowed by some big CG thing at the end of the movie, I was kind of like, this movie did not need that. I felt like the characters and everything else was so strong, and the backstory was so strong that that big spectacle at the end of the movie, I felt like we did not need that. I almost felt like that probably should have been saved for the sequel. That way it has something to build to, because of the fact that it happens in this movie relatively quick at the end of the movie. I was like, maybe that should have been saved for the sequel so we could establish it later on. That was my thoughts on that. And speaking of the villain, like I said, we get a great henchman in this movie, the Death Dealer. I felt like we did not get enough of that. I felt like we were kind of shortchanged on that. That kind of bothered me, and that's something that the MCU kind of does a lot as well. There were moments in the movie where I was like, okay, someone went from 0 to like 100 as far as warrior stuff goes, because there is a character that literally knows nothing, and literally the next day knows how to do it all. So I was like, okay, I don't believe that at all. So other than those three things that I mentioned, and like I said, it's not necessarily a Shang-Chi problem, it's more of a Marvel MCU problem and Disney problem, because it's something that is always being used in those movies. So other than that, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought this movie was really good. The choreography is really good. The acting and the characters are actually very well done. So go check it out and enjoy. And don't forget to stay for the ending credits as well. I'm going to give Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings a B. Alright, hopefully you like what you see here. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I'm Mike the Movie Misfit, and I'll see you at the movies.
Get more out of life. Go out to a movie.